Hello there, friends. While you wait for the next episode of You've Got to Be Kidding Me, Liam recently moved, so he has to work through all that ordeal, and I've been working through some personal stuff myself. So while you're waiting until the next episode of the podcast, we thought we'd give you a little treat. We thought we'd throw you the first episode of RainTAKErs, which is our New Japan show on Patreon, where we cover New Japan 10 years in the past from the Rainmaker shock onwards. So this is a recurring series on Patreon. There's, I think, 20 episodes of it now on Patreon, if you'd like to hear the whole thing, at tnachat.com or patreon.com/kiddingme. But here, for free, is the first episode of RainTAKErs. We'll hopefully see you soon for the Final Resolution 2006 episode of You've Got to Be Kidding Me.
Coin drop. Oh, fuck, I forgot the first bit of a kind of song. Doesn't it just go like, ah?
Welcome everybody to our new Patreon series covering New Japan 10 years ago. RainTAKErs, as Liam has insisted on us calling. We've been backed into the corner of we did not come up with another name.
I'm doing the Raintaker pose.
I did a zoom out there. I added a zoom out in post, just so you know.
Yeah, can you fade out the audio as the zoom?
There was no zoom out on this show, by the way. There was a note I've made. He did the Rainmaker post that they didn't have the zoom out as the thing yet.
No, we weren't quite at that stage yet.
So the premise of the show is we were going to cover New Japan basically 10 years after the fact. We should have started this on February 12th, but, you know, plans. So as a general rule, we'll try and cover the 10-year anniversary of a major New Japan show on the 10-year anniversary. So we'll start with New Beginning from the Rainmaker shock and just keep going as long as until we get bored, I suppose, which will probably be until like 2017 New Japan, right?
Is that what we're doing?
I don't know. I'm just when will we not be interested in covering it anymore? I
don't know. I kind of thought we were just doing the year, but yeah. I mean, let's just go until Kenny leaves.
Oh, you and your Kenny Omega obsession.
Well, it's just we'll go. Yeah, we'll end it when the golden era ended, when Naito beat Okada at Wrestle Kingdom,
which is a story that you can argue started on this New Beginning show. So.
My first two notes is we get two of the biggest Japanese professional wrestling rivalries starting on the same day here. The stories really kicking off on the same day. It's really interesting.
Yeah, so this is a very important show in New Japan history, a very important show in wrestling history. The New Beginning, February 12th, 2012, New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Come on.
All right, from the Osaka Prefectural Gymnasium in Osaka, Japan. 6,200 people in attendance. That seems like a real attendance.
Important to actually note the different areas these shows take place, because one of the major storylines that we'll be following through is one professional wrestler's relationship with a certain part of Japan.
But we can't get into that yet.
Yeah, I'm just saying. It's of a note.
A certain wrestler who perhaps made empty promises.
Which is, kind of... I'm really fascinated in that sort of development from that character, because I think that watching that in real time is going to have a lot of a different context than what we were... watching it with our knowledge that we have now is going to provide a completely different context to the whole turn than what we saw in real life.
Yeah, and I find it really cool that, I don't think that would happen anywhere else in the world. I don't think people would care. But the fact that he said, next time you'll see me, I'll have the belt, and he didn't. And they fucking held it against him.
For years.
I think that's really cool. I think wrestling audience should do that more.
Well, it's almost like actual investment in the audience is the best thing possible.
But we'll get into that over the years and years to come. A note on what we're going to cover on the show. The New Japan World version does not have the first two matches, which are Yoshihashi and Yujiro against Fale and Hanma, and Izuka Ishii and Yano against Captain New Japan, Liger, and Tama Tonga. No loss, but it doesn't have those matches, so we're not going to watch them.
I'll give one note because we won't have a chance to talk about him otherwise, but I wanted to give a big shout out to Tama Tonga on his Wrestle Kingdom match.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that this guy was a super athletic, very fun babyface?
I loved Tama Tonga pre-Bullet Club. I was look at this guy doing his one spring up to the top rope Shelton Benjamin style. That rules.
Yeah, smiley guy Tama Tonga had a ton of athleticism. He, leaping to the top rope. He'd come up with a weird twisting press like Jeff Hardy. And he had this cool twist around the entire body and then do a leaping DDT thing as his finish. I'm gonna say, this era of Tama Tonga is really fun.
Because like I would have been a casual New Japan viewer pre-Rainmaker Shock. Rainmaker Shock is, like many people, the moment that I would have started watching this company regularly. And anytime I saw Tama Tonga, it's like, yeah, this guy's athletic. He looks the business. He's a cool guy. They should push him.
I don't think I started watching until Best of the Super Juniors next year. I had seen like bits and pieces, but with zero context.
Yeah, because I kind of started watching New Japan in like 2008 when they did the Wrestle Kingdom with TNA, because of course I did, because this is a TNA Patreon, so I have to tie it back to TNA somehow. But TNA was my entry point, that Wrestle Kingdom where it's like Nagata against Angle, which is a really cool match, and then the 6-man tag that had the likes of Fergal Devitt. We can call him Fergal Devitt on the show, which is quite nice.
Fergal. Fergal Devitt.
The Prince Devitt, you have to do your adjusted Fergal Devitt impression instead of your Finn Balor impression.
It's gotta have that little bit, that more, the Captain fucking New Japan. It's the exasperation is what it is.
We're currently pre-Captain New Japan, so you have to come up with like a baby face Devitt accent.
I gotta work out what his like deal is. You know what's crazy? He's like 30 at this point. We might as well go into the first match because we're talking about Devitt.
Yeah, so 6 matches that we'll cover, starting with, for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles, No Remorse Corp, the team of Davey Richards and Rocky Romero, challenged the champions Apollo 55, Prince Devitt, and Ryusuke Taguchi.
So my first like takeaway from this was like, how has Rocky Romero looked the exact same in like for over a decade?
To be fair, so does Ferg. Like, he's in sensational shape here. And he is in still sensational shape.
But at least Fergal has like, he's got the different haircut at this point.
His face looks a little different these days too.
Yeah, he's actually showing a bit of his age now, which is like, reasonable. He's like 40.
I was gonna say, I don't even think it's like in an old way. He just looks. Maybe it's the beard. Maybe that's the only difference.
Yeah, well, the beard is much bigger now.
Mm.
But yeah, I just wanted to mention Rocky looks the exact same.
Yeah, identical.
I'm really looking forward to the different eras of Rocky Romero tag teams that we're going to see throughout this. Because obviously we start with the No Remorse Corps, then we'll move into the Forever Hooligans, then we'll move in to RPG Vice. Then Roppongi 3K, I guess, he's technically a part of too, so 4 Rocky Romero tag team eras.
It's like the Barnard and Tomko to Barnard and Anderson to Anderson and Gallows, and then there's an Anderson and Gatto team in there as well somewhere.
I think we're past that bit. I don't think we get that bit.
Well, before we talk about this is the last show of Giant Bernard, so it's the last show of Bad Intentions.
I got some Bad Intentions takes, I'll tell you right now, because I watched for context, I watched Wrestle Kingdom, Garrett didn't, so there'll be a little bit of I can hopefully provide a little background to some of the matches.
I am sticking to the premise of our podcast, jumping straight in with the new beginning.
But honestly, Wrestle Kingdom was really enjoyable, so I had a really good time watching it.
Yeah, it is fun though to see those people who have just like a revolving door of tag team partners.
But we gotta admit, like, Romero and Anderson, like, 2 of the best guys to do tag team wrestling in Japan. You know what I mean? It's like, there's a reason that they were like these tent post guys for all these other guys coming through.
So I thought this match was a little slow to get going, but once it got going, this match kind of rocked. Because I was a little worried, because like this is post the peak era of New Japan Junior Tags, I think. I think that's fair to say. Where you get, like, the Guns, you get Apollo 55, you get No Limit, and you get Golden Lovers. That era of, like, 2009 to 2011 produced so many cool tag matches. And now we're in that, like, kind of post-era where, like, Davey and Rocky are no slouches. They're Davey Richards and Rocky Romero. They're 2 very good wrestlers. But we're going into the era where you have, I think, a lot of teams that aren't quite as over as, No Limit were, or as Apollo 55 were at their peak, or as, obviously, the Golden Lovers were at their peak.
And we haven't gotten quite to the athleticism era of your Roppongi Vices, Forever Hooligans, Young Bucks.
Red Dragon,
yeah. So it's like in that weird kind of middle section right now. Or like even, fair play, like one of my favorite tag teams in the junior tag division, Matt Sydal and Ricochet. They were such a great tag team in New Japan. So we haven't got to the athleticism era, and we're kind of out of the over tag teams era. So we're in this like weird little middle ground here. This is a big improvement over the last match. The Wrestle Kingdom match was okay, but the crowd didn't give a fuck about it.
I think it is Wrestle Kingdom tradition for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team title match at Wrestle Kingdom to die a death. Even if it's good, it dies a death.
It can get there, but it's just like they have to work real hard for it, and the crowd has to be receptive for it. Both of these matches, you watch it and just like, look at these 4 professionals doing their job here. Like, just 4 professional wrestlers wrestling real good. Like I said, like you said, sorry. there was this kind of build up and it was like fine, but then once it started getting going, it was like this was all action and what you wanted from it. I feel like it started to get the crowd really woke up at the Rocky Romero's repeated clothesline spot. Like as soon as he started hitting that, the crowd were like, all right, well we're getting into this now. But yeah, I came into this just hoping for a hotter crowd for it, even if they had the same match, and I think we got that. A much better pace here than the Wrestle Kingdom match, which was even slower at parts.
I don't remember when Taguchi transitioned to being like a meme boy, but he's not here. He's just a regular Trunks wrestler, man.
He transitioned when Devitt betrayed him.
So he went mad once his best friend and tag team partner betrayed him, so fair enough.
And then he had an ass-based feud with Kenny. I really love the finish of this match.
Oh, the way they built to the finish, because they did a bunch of moves. They did a cool, like, assisted Bloody Sunday where Taguchi had him, like, draped over his shoulders, and then...
Black Sunday.
Yeah, Bloody Sunday, them really cool. The Let's Go Devitt chants are, like, one of the consistent things in Fergal Devitt matches that you're just like... God, like, Prince Devitt's a star. This dude's a star, and he's waiting to break out. And it's a shame, like, the pathway from junior heavyweight to, like, the heavyweight division was not as quite as clear as it is these days in New Japan, where you do get Shingo, you do get Will Ospreay going that way. And it wasn't really there in 2012.
But to be fair, like, the person who, like, sort of formed that pathway for them was Devitt.
And he never had the chance to benefit from it. It's so sad.
Well, that was a company decision, and we'll get to that when Devitt leaves. Shingo basically did the exact same thing as Devitt. Like, Devitt ran through the best of the Super Juniors and won every match, and then Shingo did the exact same thing. But then Shingo actually got to stick around and reap the benefits of it.
Yeah, it's a shame. But yeah, there's a bunch of cool near falls. There was a Doomsday Device knee from Roppongi 3K that the crowd just absolutely bid on. They thought it was the finish.
And we saw the contract killer, what would become the Forever Hooligans finish with the Burning Hammer knee combination.
Which Devitt just popped up out of absolutely nowhere to break up.
Yeah. This is what you like from these kind of matches, these Super Junior tags.
But yeah, you wanted to talk about the finish.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to talk about the maneuver, the Black Sunday. That shit was, like, I popped out of my chair. I was like, I hadn't seen it in a long time, or if ever, I don't even remember. I forgot what finish, like, Apollo 55 used to use, but this one, I was like, wow.
Yeah, so, and then No Remorse Corp beat Apollo 55. What was the actual finish? I literally just watched the show. I didn't write it down.
It was the combo move. I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, Davey and Rocky win the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships.
Yeah, we will see how Davey's run in New Japan goes.
It can only go well knowing Davey Richards. The man has never had trouble in his entire life, his entire career. He's a man who has spotless track record. Everyone loves working with him. It's great.
I have to rewatch the, like, 2 sit-down shoot interview that Davey and Steen did, because Davey goes into details as to why he thought he should perhaps be pushed a little harder than he was being.
Which, on the one hand, I get, because he was a main event guy in the US.
I do get that, but also, like, I think he was the least impressive person in this match, so I can understand from New Japan's perspective where they're like, okay.
But was he not over because he wasn't pushed, is the question.
I'm sure. I don't know. I just don't think he was particularly impressive in any of his New Japan run, but...
Oh, Davey hit the Creeping Death and they won. That was the finish. He hit the spin kick thing he does. There you go. It popped back into my head.
There you go.
I don't know, because like I do understand where he's coming from, because he's a main event guy even at this stage in the US. Like, he's a top guy in the US. It would be like if AJ came over in 2014 and they're like, you're a junior tag guy. That AJ would not want that either. I don't think Davey Richards is an AJ Styles level star, but like, if you're thinking top guy in the company he was working for going to Japan, it's kind of an equivalent level, and he's not being pushed even remotely to that level, not even like as a junior heavyweight contender, really.
I don't know, like, you see the Ring of Honor translations from a lot of people, and it's like, this is kind of the level they come in at, for the most part.
But if I'm Davey Richards, do I think it's fair to be pushed higher?
But if you're Davey Richards, I'm not sure you think you're ever being pushed at the level you wanted to be.
That's true. He does seem a lot.
But especially this era Davey. I'm sure Davey of now seems like a completely different guy. But
he's mellowed almost too much. I want some madness in Davey. He's giving too many hugs and handshakes and putting everybody over. I want a little bit of bitter Davey. You know, just a little bit of bitter.
A little bit of that edge.
Yeah, I don't want him like saying Jordan Oliver is the best wrestler he's ever wrestled.
Yeah.
So Apollo 55 lost tag titles to No Remorse Corp.
I'm sure they'll get it back.
Well, that's the way these titles work. Yeah, the last like 5 minutes of this match rocked.
Yeah. I don't mind having a title on your in your company that's dedicated to like, fast reigns that bounce back and forth and have a lot of like fast-paced matches. I think that's fine.
It's basically what the TNT title is in AEW, and it works very well.
Yeah, like that's a role to be filled.
Now to the worst match on this show.
But still, like, a match I enjoyed. It's just not it went on for fucking ever.
So the Suzuki-Gun team of Lance Archer, Minoru Suzuki, Taichi, Taka Michinoku, and Yoshihiro Takayama faced the New Japan army of Kushida, Tiger Mask, Togi Makabe, Wataru Inoue, and Yuji Nagata in a 10-man tag team elimination match with your standard New Japan elimination match rules where you can do pinfall submission or throw the person over the top rope. If this match was half as long as this match was, it would be fine. But this match went 23 minutes, Liam.
I think you're wrong. I think it went 45 minutes. Yeah, it had definitely had bits that I liked about it, but it was just so long.
Yeah, because like the main takeaway from the match is that it was a showcase for Lance Archer in particular, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, because they're trying to get him over as like another one of the big... what a formidable, like... Because obviously the structure of it goes is like... They take out most of the New Japan army, and then I think Makabe comes in and handles the juniors very quickly. And then it's down to just Nagata and Makabe versus the 3 giants of Suzuki-Gun. And they manage to take out Nagata before it's 3-on-1 against Makabe. And these 3 dudes are just throwing bombs at Makabe.
It's fun when Archer and Takayama are there together. They're just doing like big boots where they're standing on each other. There's a sequence where Takayama and Suzuki are laying kicks onto the back and front of Makabe, and then Lance Archer just strolls down the apron and just hits like a club and blow from behind just to add insult to injury. It is good stuff.
I found it pretty interesting like how little Archer looks compared to now.
Because I don't think he looks smaller, but he doesn't have that wild man appearance he has now, so he does look like more of a pretty boy big man as opposed to a crazy man.
I don't think he has that thickness that he has now.
But I think he is like more or less the same shape though, isn't he? He's not like in better or worse shape.
It might be that he's also next to Takayama.
That's true, who is just a mountain of a man.
But yeah, I don't know. I had bits about this that I liked, but just too long.
Yeah, so Archer pins Kushida with the blackout, he pinned Tiger Mask with the F5, then he dumped Inoue out. Before Inoue did a sick like deadlift German to Archer, that ruled.
Oh, yeah, I had the same exact note that Inoue hits a really impressive stalling German suplex on Archer, and I thought that was 3.
Yeah, he's gotten robbed, does he?
Yeah, like, I don't know, maybe I just misheard it, but I really thought that was like 1, 2, 3, and I was like, oh, Archer's out.
Bad New Japan officiate. And it would make sense that like the way these matches would be typically booked, especially if this was like a WWE Survivor Series match, the way they would absolutely book that match is guy eliminates 3 guys, gets eliminated. That's very much a match structure for this kind of matches you've seen a million times.
And it would make sense. Like, you get the quick German on someone and pin someone is pretty universally accepted in Japan.
As you mentioned, it was down to 5-on-2 before Makabe strolled in. He threw out Taka. I assume he threw out Taichi. The camera missed it.
Yeah, it just dispatched of the juniors immediately.
Because he threw out Taka, and Taka was having a little fit in the floor, and then they got back into the ring, and Taichi wasn't there anymore. And I was like, did I miss Taichi being eliminated?
Yeah.
They got the heat on Makabe for ages. Nagata made a comeback. This is where I said this sucks, because he made the comeback. He didn't eliminate anybody. He just got pinned.
Yeah.
If this match was short, if they went straight into like a finishing stretch after Makabe came in, because they got the heat on Makabe for what felt like 5 or 6 minutes before Nagata tagged in, pinned Nagata, then Suzuki pins Makabe with the Gotch pile driver to win 3-0. Like, if they did this match in 12 instead of 23, I think it would be a good match, but they just dragged the goddamn thing out.
Yeah, and makes sense. They needed Suzuki to get a big like definitive win here too, because he just lost to Tanahashi.
Yeah, and not only did he get the win, but his team got a pretty substantial win.
Yeah, but also it ends with the image of him, parading Makabe around, who was still a name at this point, with the Gotch pile driver and just laying him out.
Kushida wasn't in this match very long, but I love this era of Kushida. Red tights, like blonde mohawk with Kushida. That's my Kushida.
That's a good Kushida right there.
I also enjoyed Taka at one stage was charging into the corner where he shouted Axe Bomber at the top of his lungs, but then did a knee instead.
Yeah, it's a good bit. I love that universally the calling a move out loud really loudly is like just everyone does it. It's like the Jacksons do it with the Brainbuster, Taka and Taichi doing it with the Axe Bomber. Just good fun.
That brings us World Tag Team titles. The IWGP Tag Team titles, Bad Intentions face the team of Tenkozy. That's Giant Bernard and Carl Anderson facing Satoshi Kojima and Hiroyoshi Tenzan. Tenkozy are champions. They retain.
Yeah, this is a rematch from Wrestle Kingdom where they beat Bad Intentions for the titles.
So I was looking at Carl Anderson in this match.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have insisted he's FTR bald.
Wow, I didn't put that together, but sure, a little bit. I can see that a tiny bit.
Because like he's not like leaned out Carl yet. He's still kind of stocky Carl.
I like thick Carl.
And he has like a schmeg and he's bald. So I'm like, he's FTR bald.
A little bit. I like Bad Intentions, but I think I only like them because I like Carl Anderson a lot.
I don't know. I was actually kind of bummed because when I saw Bad Intentions come out, and I knew this was around the time Bernard went back to WWE, but I was like, when does he go back? Because I'd like to watch some of him again. And then it's like, oh no, this is the only match we're getting because he goes back literally this month.
Excuse you. Only match you're getting. I got to see 2 Bad Intentions Tenkoji matches.
Well done. Congratulations.
Yeah, and they were both good, so it's fine.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, when does he leave? It's like, oh, literally, this is his last match. He goes back right after this. And I was like, oh. Because, like...
Yeah.
He's a great wrestler, and he was a legitimate main event heel in New Japan, a guy who could be a credible IWGP heavyweight title contender.
The guy that Tanahashi beat for the vacant title.
Yeah, and had very good matches with Tanahashi. Go see those matches out. They're very good. And then he went back to WWE, and he was Tensai, and all that stuff sucked.
And, like, I remember being excited for his return to WWE too. I was like, oh yeah, because at that point I had seen some Bernard stuff. Bernard was one of the first guys I saw in New Japan, just from clips.
You always need that in, don't you? You always need to like, oh, it's A-Train, it's Albert. I remember that guy.
Well, my in, if I'm being serious, was Alex Shelley and Trent Beretta. They were the ones where I was like, Trent Beretta was the person who like got me to actively search out like PWG and stuff because I was like, I really liked him on Superstars and I wanted to see what he was going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bernard was like one of those dudes that because he was in a lot of like the limited YouTube videos that New Japan had uploaded at this era. So it's like, a lot of them was like Bernard versus Tanahashi or Bernard in the tag league or whatever. So it's what I saw a lot of. I really like Bad Intentions. I liked their look. They have a cool look. They have cool matches, and they do. You get the Carl Anderson like flurry chained offense, which I really enjoy still. But you get the Bernard like big power stuff.
And even they combined it because they did a thing where they did 2 like splashes and then they did 2 back splashes as well back to back, and it's like there's cool stuff between those two.
They have some cool chain stuff together. I think that late era Tenkoji meandering around a useless tag division has definitely soured me on them as a team. Even though they're still running at like 100% here, I can't think of anything but like 2015-16 Tenkoji like having really annoying matches on shows and me being like, God, can these end?
Yeah, and like the heat segment in this match is too long. I think they get the heat on Kojima for quite a while. Bernard goes for a sit out powerbomb on Kojima and nearly dropped him.
Yeah.
She's like, oh.
Got there in the end.
Yeah, they were fine. He just reset.
But yeah, like, I just think the views of, like, mid 2010 Tenkoji has really soured me on them. Even though I thought they've been pretty great here.
Yeah, and this was very much, this guy is leaving the territory because Kojima kicked out of the Magic Killer, Kojima kicked out of the Baldo Bomb, and then one with a Lariat. So it was very much, we know this guy's losing, so we're going to let Kojima kick out of all of his moves.
And then, of course, after the match, Tenzan gets on the mic and puts them both over. Real nice guy, that guy.
Just calls them a good team. They're a good team, right, guys?
Well, they just won the Tokyo Sports Tag Team of the Year, I think. Well, the Wrestling Observer Tag Team of the Year.
Bad Intentions or Tenkoji?
Bad Intentions. My favorite part of this match was when Anderson got the crowd to chant Bernard, and they were very excited about it.
Yeah, a nice little goodbye person. I assume they probably knew he was leaving at this stage, right?
I assume the company did. I don't know if the fans did, but I think at this point he had built up enough cachet where he was just liked regardless.
Yeah, but like the way they structured this match where Kojima did kick out of all of the team's big moves, and the way that they like Tenzan did put him over after the match as well, does feel like a nice little, listen, you're off to the Fed, good luck with you, you've been very good for this company for the last 6 years or so, thank you, goodbye, we hope you don't get jobbed out and given a horrible stereotypical bad character, and everyone thinks, oh god, Bernard is going to come in and feud with Cena and they're going to have a really cool thing going on, and then he's Tensai and it's like, oh god, it's over already.
What if this Giant Bernard just came in and feuded with Cena instead?
It would have ruled, because that's what everyone was like. Everyone was like, oh, this guy coming in feuding with Cena, it's actually going to be a pretty cool big deal. And then when it was Tensai, it was like, no, you fucked it already. No.
Just have Bad Intentions Bernard show up.
Just big, mean, angry man who beats people up. What more do you need in professional wrestling?
Speaking of big, mean, angry men beating each other up in professional wrestling.
I found it very interesting. The last two matches on the show before the main event, the semi-main and the match before that, it's funny to watch an era of New Japan that doesn't have the never title.
Oh, it does. It's this match right here.
Yeah, but if the never title existed, this match would be a never title match. Naito and Nakamura would be an IC title match. But because it doesn't exist, this is the IC title match, and then Naito Nakamura is just a regular singles match.
100%. I also think it's pretty, obvious here that they didn't know how well Okada was going to draw on top, so they stacked the top three.
Yeah, so you have a big title match between Tanaka and Goto for the IC title. You do have Naito and Nakamura, which is a huge singles match to put on New Beginning in a semi-main.
That is, I assume, because they didn't know how well new guy coming back from Excursion versus Tanahashi was going to do. So they're like, we'll stack up the semi-main.
Yeah, and then you have Okada, Tanahashi on top. But yeah, IWGP Intercontinental title, Hiroki Goto beats Masato Tanaka in a match I liked a great deal. This match kind of ruled.
This was my match of the night.
Because I loved the structure of this match, where it looks like every time Goto's going to go punch for punch or a forearm for forearm with Tanaka, and Tanaka shuts him down. And then it looks like he fires back, he hits a big backdrop driver, but then he's shut down again. And every time he builds up a little bit of momentum, he's just shut down. It's not the usual New Japan Heat segment where someone just sits on somebody for 5 minutes. There is the hope spots. There is the moments where Goto looks like he's going to fire back, but then he gets cut off.
It's Goto trying to find his way in whenever he can. It's he's getting overwhelmed with all these power and shots, and then Goto's like, I see an opportunity to get in here, and then I have to take it. It's really an interesting dynamic. Goto at this point is the best. I love Goto at this era. He's so fucking good.
Yeah.
2010 to 2015, 2016, Goto, that's a guy who should have been top of the company at some point, because he was so fucking good. And matches like this really prove it.
And he did very clearly start breaking down after that. But yeah, before that, he's a guy who you'd put in a singles match on any given show and he'd deliver. No matter what, no matter who against, it would be one of the best matches of the night. He's a guy you could put in a G1 final against Kenny Omega and everyone would be like, why are you doing that? Why are you putting Goto in that match? And then the match would be amazing. And you'd be like, oh, that's why.
And he's over as shit still. So it's like, this guy should have been strapped up. I will die on that hill for the rest of my life.
Well, he was strapped up here, Liam, winning the Intercontinental title.
Yes, but unfortunately not the IC title that it would become.
Yeah, not the Shinsuke belt.
But she does win as well. I just have written down here, when Hiroki Goto is on, he's one of my favorite wrestlers in the world. He's so unique. He has a certain flair to power stuff that no one else has.
Yeah, he rules. He just rules.
We get a second rope Ushigoroshi in this that was mind-blowing.
That must be absolutely horrible for your knees.
Oh, yeah, because he has to land on, he has the superhero landing.
Because, Masato Tanaka's not a huge guy, but he's still a pretty big guy to be coming down from that height on your knee.
Can we talk about Tanaka in this match?
Yeah, he was mean.
Has all of his trademark speed that he's always had. His strikes are so smooth and so snug. They're perfect. It's perfect. I love Masato Tanaka. Yeah, just absolute banger, never title match here. Beat the shit out of each other. 4 1/4. Really love it. This is the level of interference I don't mind in a New Japan match.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little. Yuge tries to get involved. Yeah, you think he cost him one time, and then Goto fucks him up on the second time.
And then they're gone.
That's all you need.
Never come back.
That's all you need. Yeah. And then, of course, after the match, Yuge gets in the ring, makes a challenge. I mean, I'm for it. I'm a documented fan of Yujiro Takahashi, so I am completely fine with seeing this match.
I am pleased to tell you that I'm pretty sure we're not going to cover it.
I'm pretty sure I will be watching it regardless.
You're going to insist on watching this Yujiro Goto IC title match.
Yeah, because I like Yujiro in these spots, mid-card title shots. Him and Ishii had that really great match together for the Never title.
But that was like a cosmic fluke. That tricked people into thinking Yujiro was good and he's not.
And then he had the really good Ibushi match last year.
Yeah, you put him in with some of the generation's best wrestlers and they can carry him.
Okay, well then sometimes that's just people's roles. It's fine.
Yeah,
Not everyone's going to be Shinsuke Nakamura.
Well, maybe the Yujiro match would have been better than the Shinsuke match on this, though. So, you know what? Pro Yujiro all of a sudden.
I like Shinsuke and Naito.
Yeah, so the next match, Tetsuya Naito versus Shinsuke Nakamura. I don't know. I don't think they ever got the crowd. And by the time the match ended, I was like, okay, it was pretty good.
I thought this was a G1 match. It was just a condensed version of a New Japan epic. A G1 main event.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought this was pretty good. There's some sorry beats from Naito here that I really enjoyed. Like, I feel like Naito's temper came out here, like, which has always been like the thing of he gets too emotionally involved and it costs him in the big spots, and that's why he had to go and leave and become tranquilo. It's like, I like that we're setting up like this guy is he tries to be this cool, calm, collected ace type, but really he's like this like angry individual that's like condensing all this rage, and it pops out in these matches at inopportune times. Because like he gets mad, and then Nakamura's like, "All right, I'm gonna kick you in the head now."
Yeah, it's very, very mean of Nakamura to do that. I would not like to be shoot kicked in the head.
Yeah, because like as soon as he does it, it costs him his advantage, and Nakamura takes advantage from it. It's just like, I thought that was really good. I love that this match here is like a giant red herring, because take yourself back to this show and you're like, all right, Tanahashi's going to dispatch of Okada, and then whoever wins this match is going to be Tanahashi's next challenge.
And I'd imagine most people were probably thinking it's going to be Nakamura too.
Yeah, so it's just, I like this booking here, because it also helps set up especially once Naito wins, because you're like, oh, they're not going to do Naito Okada.
Yeah, and imagine if you're looking at it where the next show is the 40th anniversary show. You're probably looking at it thinking, oh yeah, well obviously Nakamura Tanahashi on the 40th anniversary show, right?
Yeah, so I really thought that was a nice touch. I went 4 stars in this. I really liked it.
I went 3.25. It just didn't get me. I liked Naito doing that big, huge, giant dropkick on the ramp. He got some serious airtime on that dropkick.
Yeah.
He just flung himself.
It's nice to see a Naito with knees running around.
This is my Naito. I never liked LIJ Naito. I'm never into the I'm not interested in the thing I'm doing thing. And I know the gimmick is that he secretly is interested, and that's the whole thing. But like, I want to see emotion and passion from Naito, and that's always the Naito I preferred. Stardust Naito
I love
is my
Stardust
Naito.
Genius.
Yeah, I don't like the LIJ stuff. It's too try hard to be cool.
Oh, Garrett, I'm going to be so angry when we get to 2 of the biggest missed opportunities in New Japan history with Golden Stardust and Mayu Tag.
Well, you see, they can just bring Cody Rhodes to New Japan now, team him with Kota Ibushi, and that can be Golden Stardust.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it. So I guess we should talk about this
Shinsuke?
little-known main event. Oh, I guess Shinsuke.
Shinsuke's there. Shinsuke's just... Because this is, I think, relatively early in the charismatic megastar Shinsuke run, right?
Yeah, it's been around, but like, I feel like there's a misconception that people think he went to Mexico one day and came back and he was a different guy. Because it was never like that. It was a real gradual evolution into what he became.
Yeah. He's just the biggest star in the world, though, isn't he?
Oh, he's the coolest. Peak Shinsuke is the coolest professional wrestler of all time.
Like, everything he does in this match, like, and this isn't even peak Shinsuke, but everything he does...
we're still a couple years off.
Every single thing he does in this match, it's just like, that man's a star. Every single, the way he sells everything, the way he does every move, every facial expression, every taunt, every in-between moment. It's like, this guy is just, he's a superstar. He's just a super, and I miss this man. I miss this Shinsuke Nakamura because he's so checked out now. Because the Shinsuke you see now does a lot of the same things, but it's almost a parody of himself. He's just like, I'm going to do some gyrating and that's my charisma
Which
now.
also, it's disappointing, but I also understand it. Like, the dude's put his body through hell.
It's rubbish. Like, I really don't blame him for not trying, but I'm sad that one of the generation's most charismatic and interesting wrestlers has spent the best part of the 5 years doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Honestly, 2 of my biggest takeaways from Wrestle Kingdom in this show is I hope both Devitt and Nakamura come back home. Like, even, like, they don't have to come back and be major parts. I'm sure Nakamura would come back and get, like, a top run again. But, like, I just want them to bookend their career here.
Yeah.
I'm sure Nakamura will. I'm less sure that Devitt will.
Where they can also do cool AEW matches.
Yeah. So, I really hope that Nakamura ends up coming home soon.
And then, the main event for the IWGP.
Yeah, no, we'll talk about it. I just want to do a brief little rundown, because I think it's necessary, of the Okada-Yoshihashi match.
Oh, sure, it's very important. That match stinks.
I don't think it stinks. That match is fine. It's just booked really weirdly. Okada, it's interesting seeing him come out for that entrance, because he has no confidence. He has no swagger. Like, he is a dude who is uncomfortable in his own skin at this point. But I think as a match itself, the infamy of the match is way worse than the actual reality of it. because it's a nice story to be like, oh, that he came in there and completely bombed, and then he came out and challenged, and there were people were laughing at him, and then he came back at New Beginning and was this different human being, which is mostly true. But the actual match itself was pretty well worked. I didn't think it was a necessary choice to have Yoshihashi get 80% of the offense in that match. I thought that was an interesting choice. And like people say that match died a death, and to be fair, it did for the most part, but they did start getting people at the end, and then they just went to the finish. It was just poorly paced. Okada had two, like, of his signature spots, but they weren't quite his signature spots. As we all know, the Rainmaker sit down that looked really bad. But he also did his little, like, over-the-knee neck breaker thing, but instead he sat down with it, and it was really weird looking.
How do you sit down with it?
It's like the Sheamus move.
Oh, he just did a regular Celtic cross rather than over the knee.
Yeah, he did like a Celtic cross, but like with his head slightly hitting the knee as he went down.
Weird.
It was really weird. So yeah, whatever match. It's not as bad as people think, but it's really weirdly booked. And then, of course, after the Tokyo Dome main event, Okada comes out and makes a challenge, and as he's leaving, there's laughter in the crowd. But how do you feel? Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of theories here.
Go on.
So the first theory that goes around is that they purposely dogged this Wrestle Kingdom return.
Absolutely not.
The Rainmaker shock more impactful.
Nope.
Okay, expand.
No, they wouldn't deliberately tank their top star, because no one expected Okada to win anyway. You know, if that was a 6-minute match against Yoshihashi, if he looked good, still no one would have expected him to win. You don't deliberately tank the guy you're about to win the IWGP title with. That's just not a thing you do.
So do you think in the, like, that month span, like, Gator just gave him the best pep talk of all time?
I don't know, because to talk about this match between Okada and Tanahashi for the IWGP Heavyweight title,
he comes out as a completely different human.
But there's still a little of the deer in the headlights.
Man, I watched the other match. This is a different human being walking out for his entrance here. Sure, he's like a little like, I'm in the big spot, but like he seemed uncomfortable with everything he was doing at Wrestle Kingdom. And he feels like he's obviously not the Okada that we see now, but he's, for the most part, like, he has that confidence and that swagger, and he has that, like, he doesn't feel like he's being led as much. Even by Tanahashi.
Maybe if I watched the Wrestle Kingdom match, I'd have a different take. But I think the comparison is the Wrestle Kingdom match is he's the deer who has already been hit by the car in the headlights, as opposed to here where he's still kind of the naive baby deer in the headlights. Because like he doesn't have the moments between for me here. He does his move and then he just moves
doesn't
on.
have that like that little swagger that he'll do between stuff that he does now, or even not so much now, but during his like major title run.
Yeah, when you compare him like back to back with Shinsuke, where Shinsuke does have all those little in between moments where he's knowing everything he's doing.
Unfair.
It is unfair, but this is the dude that's winning the IWGP Heavyweight title, not Shinsuke Nakamura. So you can't not compare him to the other top stars in the company. So when you watch Shinsuke, who is a complete performer, and then you watch Okada, who's like, he is technically proficient, and he's not the deer that just got hit by the car. He's just the deer that's looking at the headlights now. He got resurrected apparently in the last month. He still looks a little bit like that naive little boy who's been propped into this role, and he doesn't feel entirely ready for it.
I don't know. It might just be because I saw the other match, but to me, Okada came out here looking like a fucking star in comparison. I was like, this dude, I don't know what they did. I don't know if Gato sat him down, was like slapping him in the face and telling him, you have to get your shit together. Because it was a different human being that walked out of those curtains.
I will say, there's a match graphic for this match on New Japan World.
Mm-hmm.
And Okada in that match graphic looks like a completely different human being to the Okada that walks out. I think it's just a haircut. I think he just got a better haircut.
What? It's the... Because at Wrestle Kingdom, he had dyed eyebrows, which were like bleached, so that didn't help a lot.
Because yeah, I looked at that match graphic and I'm like, God, this man looks hideous.
That's what he looks like at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah.
This is the second best Okada look of all time.
Is this New Beginning look?
Yeah. This is my, like, for a long time, this was my favorite Okada look. The purple in the hair, the swagger, just, like, heel Okada, like, fundamentally, like, this was my favorite Okada for a long, long time, until this year's Okada, where I feel like he's really stepped up into being, like the all-time best wrestler. Like,
is the entire difference between Wrestle Kingdom Okada and New Beginning Okada, he got a better haircut? Is that it?
Well, you know, there's a certain, like, when you get a haircut, There's a level of like feeling yourself.
Yeah.
Like you never feel better about yourself than after a haircut.
Well, a good haircut anyway.
Yeah, a good haircut. Like you never feel like more like you walk out and you're like, I'm hot as shit. And there's a confidence to yourself after a good haircut. And I think that's definitely a part of it. He got a fresh cut and he's like, I'm looking good. I could be, I am IWGP World Champion, baby. Let's go.
So this match, I think it did suffer from the New Japan main event. It did suffer from Okada not being particularly interesting when working on top. He didn't entirely have that sense of
You didn't
presence.
like his Yave stuff?
No, I've never liked his Yava stuff, and I'm glad he's given up on it.
I know. I like some of his dumb little submissions that he puts Tanahashi in. I think it helps stand out from other Tanahashi matches too. Like you get some Ultimo influence in this.
I don't know. I don't think he's over enough to pull it off at this stage.
Well, speaking of that, I think it's really interesting seeing Okada's signature spots that would eventually like blow the roof of Tokyo domes get no reaction.
Yeah, he
at
does
this
the
point.
Rainmaker pose, and people are like, oh. It's actually called the Rainmaker pose too. Like the announcers are like, "Oh, Rainmaker pose," but like, no, the crowd don't get it yet.
Well, my favorite one is when he hits the drop kick to zero reaction, and it's like, you motherfuckers don't even know yet.
And it's not like he hit a bad drop kick either. He's still hitting the Okada drop kick. It still looks amazing.
It's so funny to like think about. Like they don't know. They do not know.
I didn't think Tanahashi was doing the high fly flow to the floor this early.
Oh, he was. He was busting it out whenever.
It's just like, main event title match, time to do the high fly flow to the floor. Like, in my head, that was like a 2014 Tanahashi thing. I didn't remember him doing it in all these matches, but obviously he did. He did it in this match.
He does it like this time a lot, actually. I thought there was some interesting, like, and smart ways that this this match was worked. Okada was hitting these, like, real wild overhead shots, and Tanahashi would just counter with these precision shots, just showing that, like, difference in experience level. I thought that was really interesting. And then we get, like, the big pop of Tanahashi and the big momentum swing here. Tanahashi gets that first dragon screw.
Yeah.
And you're like... It's always that... It's funny. It's like... That's almost Tanahashi's dropkick. It's like he hits that first dragon screw and you know the everything's getting picked up.
And that becomes the story of the match then, where he's working over Okada's leg. Not the first time we'll get an Okada-Tanahashi leg match.
No, and not... many will happen. Okada drags Tanahashi down into his submission before taking him on the floor and laying him out with a tombstone, which was like the first Okada move that got a reaction.
Yeah, like the entire match swung on that tombstone, because I think everything before it was just like, dudes doing holds, the crowd weren't that invested. And I think everything after the tombstone on the floor, the crowd were like super into it, super invested. And like, I was surprised that the crowd did believe Okada could win. Because like Okada hits a DDT and Tanahashi kicks out and the crowd are like, whoa. And then Okada hits the like FU kind of neckbreaker thingy he does.
Heavy rain there,
the goes. And I think it benefits a little from, obviously they know the Rainmakers is finished, but they don't know does he have secondary finishes yet because he's just come back from excursion. So I'm sure there's an element of the crowd actually not knowing what his finish is. So when he hits the heavy rain and Tanahashi kicks out again, the crowd again are like, oh, because they bid on the near fall. And I was honestly surprised to think that they were biting on the near falls for freaking Okada here back from excursion.
I think that's a testament to Tanahashi's work too. Like, he made people believe this. It probably helps that it's something I never even fucking noticed. Tanahashi just loses a tooth here.
I didn't see that, did he?
Yeah, my man just like had a giant gap in the front of his teeth.
Okada's clearly stunk that dropkick in too well. The crowd should have popped.
Yeah, I really got like going with this. I thought it was it's really nice because we see Okada now to see like moves and stuff that he's kind of abandoned in favor for his newer stuff. Like, especially as a heel, like he hits the tombstone now, but you'll find that he does that Michinoku driver variant way more.
Yeah.
And like he doesn't really do the DDT on the outside unless it's a really big match. And he doesn't really do the elbow drop very much anymore at all.
Oh, I forgot Gato hit an awful elbow drop earlier in the show. He looked terrified to
I liked his falling elbow. I thought it was cool.
No, like the actual elbow was cool, but he took like 15 minutes to actually leap. It's like the dude was clearly terrified to do this elbow drop.
The real like cincher for like how much more confident Okada came across to me was even the Rainmaker like fake outs and counters were done with so much more intensity and confidence than anything was done in that first match.
Yeah.
Like, and that wasn't even the real Rainmaker. Like, just him, like, swinging over, like, wildly with the Rainmaker. And I was like, that's... Just seeing that in comparison to the actual Rainmaker, the first ever Rainmaker, you're like, a different human being is doing this. I'm sorry. Like, it's just, even his misses are done like 1,000 times better than his actual hit ones in the last match.
Like, on the one hand, he is wrestling Tanahashi, who's much better than Yoshihashi. But on the other, do you think he probably got into the dojo for the entire month and it's like, I'm going to work out all my signature moves?
I think it has to, because I even made note that, like, the neck break and the Rainmaker, both of them, even the setups were so much better and smoother. Like, he hit everything so much smoother in this.
And this did have the classic Okada finishing stretch, which I think is what he will be known for, particularly in this first title reign, where he's defined by those last, like, 90 seconds of in and out of Rainmakers, people ducking out of Rainmakers, teasing, doing sling blades.
I love that shit.
It's great. I love it. Especially when you put him in there with Carl Anderson. I'm looking forward to rewatching those matches, because Carl is the same thing. Carl is that finishing stretch of in and out of gun stuns, and just gun stuns into Rainmakers. Oh, I can't wait to revisit those matches.
And, like, that's something that you don't really see from modern Okada either. It's actually a good little comparison point that we're watching Okada win his first title here as he is the champion again. But yeah, in the end, of course, Okada does hit the Rainmaker and pins Tanahashi to a giant pop.
I love, like, the pop. It's not a regular pop, because, like, it is it's a title change pop, but there's a shock to the pop. There's, like, a sharp intake to the pop. It's so cool.
And it's delayed, because people are like, oh my god, he just won. You can, like, there's, like, that extension to it too.
Because even though, like, as mentioned, the crowd did bite on Heavy Rain, they did bite on the DDT, but I don't think they honestly thought he was going to win, and then he did.
Yeah, they were biting on the match they were watching. They weren't thinking about the actual repercussions of if he won off this move.
And yeah, the new IWGP Heavyweight Champion is Kazuchika Okada.
What a terrible decision. And this company's going to go downhill. How did they put it on a guy coming just back from excursion?
There's a quote on the Wikipedia I have in front of me from Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer.
Yeah, let's go.
Which I assume he will very much admit he was wrong about. But Dave wrote, "There is very little that works well in modern wrestling, and when you've got a guy on top who is carrying the ball, it's not the time to replace him." Meltzer wrote that in Japan, the general reaction to the title change was negative, though Meltzer went on to call the match between Tanahashi and Okada excellent. He credited it entirely to Tanahashi, writing that Okada looked green and way out of his league. Because there was a bit of pushback against Okada for a good while into his reign about whether or not this guy is actually ready to be IWGP Heavyweight Champion. And it did take a decent amount of time for him to actually win people over, even though this match is really good.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I thought this was really good. And I thought, like, I don't think Tanahashi looked like he carried it.
No, I would say that, like, I'm a little cooler on what Okada looked like in this match to you, whereas you think he did have that swagger and that personality, and I don't think he did. I still think he looked a little like a guy that's... he is in out of his depth. Like, he is. Anybody who is put in this position like this would be in out of their depth. Like, that's just natural. That's just human. This guy is not ready for this. Nobody would be ready for this unless you're a 15-year pro. So for him to be put in that position, he is out of his depth. And I think it does show a little bit, but to say that it was entirely due to Tanahashi and that Okada looked way out of his league, I think is completely unfair watching this pro wrestling match.
I went to the Wrestle Kingdom 6 Wikipedia to see if Dave said anything about the show. And it just says here that Meltzer highlighted Kazuchika Okada as part of the show that did not work, writing that he did not look impressive and was completely unconvincing in his new role as coggy playboy. Dave taking L's.
Well, you know what? Sometimes when you write takes about wrestling, of course, we would never know this, Liam. We're never wrong.
That's an insane concept to me.
As a podcast who has never in our lives said anything that's wrong, we would not understand the concept of having to backtrack. We would not understand the concept of having to take L's. So we can't relate to Dave Meltzer. But I guess when you write about wrestling for 50 years, you will occasionally come across L's.
I suppose for some, it does happen.
Mm-hmm. That's the reason you wonderful Patreon subscribe to us here at TNAChad.com to get the correct takes about all things.
So yeah, after the match, we have Naito coming out to make the challenge. And, most importantly, I think here, closing the show.
I was going to say, I found it very interesting that Naito's the guy who sends the fans home happy.
Yeah, because, he's the guy who can actually has the confidence to talk at this point.
But, like, Okada has Geto. He's right there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think maybe they were quite synced up with what they wanted that act to be.
There is a post-match promo that got backstage, but obviously it's in Japanese, so I have no idea what Geto and Okada were actually saying.
I believe he said Rainmaker on another level. because that's what he said for the next 6 years.
Are you suggesting that Gato did not have a ton of variety in his post-match promos?
Rainmaker!
So that is New Beginning 2012. No understatement to say one of the most important shows in modern wrestling.
Not even just for, like, the obvious thing. Like, this was the show where we set up Okada and Naito, generational rivals. Okada and Tanahashi, generational rivals.
Yeah.
Two of the biggest feuds of the next decade.
Davey Richards, superstar, coming out of this.
Yes, of course. Goto winning the big one.
Yeah, Goto's big singles title win that everyone's been waiting for.
Ugh.
All the big stories from New Beginning 2012. But yeah, it's no understatement. This is one of the most important shows in modern wrestling history. That is one of the most important main events in modern wrestling history. It's one of the biggest upsets in wrestling history. Like, nobody expected Okada to win, and when he did, everybody was shocked. Literally, everybody was like, wait, they put the guy on Okado from TNA? That's the world champion of New Japan now, the Okado guy? Because, once again, revisionist history is like, oh, TNA didn't know what they had with Okada, and they did disrespect Okada with a horrible bad gimmick, but nobody knew what anybody had with Okada. Nobody looked at Okada and was like, this guy, next generational star, other than Geto, I guess, who's like, yes, he will be my guy.
Yeah, to be a fly on the wall for like the time they told Okada you're going to win the title from Tanahashi a month after coming back.
He would have shit his pants, right?
They probably told him just before he went out to wrestle Yoshihashi, and that's why he lost all of his confidence.
It's like, oh no, I'm not ready. Send me back to TNA.
Joe!
Yeah, good show. A lot of good matches on the show. Like, I enjoyed Goto and Masato Tanaka a lot. I enjoyed the Apollo 5-5 against No Remorse core match a lot. And obviously, Tanahashi and Okada, great match.
I liked everything except for the 5v5, which I thought was just fine.
I thought was thoroughly boring in every way.
What are we coming back for next time, Garrett? This is me asking because I don't know.
Very good question. We'll be coming back for
The anniversary show?
I think it is the anniversary show. So our next show will be the New Japan 40th anniversary show, which we, by all accounts, should have already done, but we'll catch up on it. And then starting from April, we'll do on anniversaries.
You say as it's a show with only tags except for the main event.
Listen, I'm sorry that they put the only tags on this anniversary show, but maybe none of it's on New Japan World. Who knows?
That semi-made looks pretty good, though, to be fair.
I remember, by the way, absolutely adoring that Okada Naito match, and I have not rewatched it since, so I'm excited to rewatch it. But yes, the next episode of this will be probably in the next couple weeks, where we will do the
You want to hear something really funny? It's like after that giant burial for Dave Meltzer about Okada being green and that being all Tanahashi, the very next Okada match, 4 3/4 stars.
He takes his L's immediately, fair play to him.
So yeah, we'll be going on to the anniversary show, and then after that, I think it's
It's probably
New Japan Cup.
Yeah, New Japan Cup finals, and then whatever Wrestling Dontaku is in 2012. Is it still Wrestling Dontaku in 2012?
After it's New Japan Cup, and then it's New Japan Brave.
Brave.
Into Wrestling Dontaku.
So that'll be the upcoming shows. As mentioned, we'll start covering on the anniversaries going into April once we covered past the 40th anniversary show.
Damn, I might try and find this random 2-day junior tag tournament that they did.
Liam's gonna come onto the show and be like, hey, there's these 7 other shows that
Wrestle One star Yusuke Kodama is on this.
And I'll be like, I'm not watching. Liam was like, should we watch the Korakuen? And I'm like, no.
Well, unless they're like an actual big Korakuen.
Yeah, which the 40th anniversary show is. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks probably with that 40th anniversary show. You can follow us on Twitter at TNA History Pod. You can follow me on Twitter at Garrick, and you can follow Liam on Twitter at The Gleet Muta. Thanks for listening, and bye-bye.
RainTAKErs.